Hello, 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 and welcome back to the Lifeboat Live with me, absolutely Arian. And I am excited to be here this Thursday night with you all, back on another Lifeboat Live. And we are talking about You Don't Know Me No More. I don't know why I said it like that, but you don't know me anymore. We are talking on the topic of evolution, personal evolution, and how sometimes we can hold people in the past and hold their past against them when sometimes where we left people are not necessarily where they are in the present moment. So I'm excited to get into this topic because I think we all can testify that, we have been in places that we weren't always the healthiest. And we may have been toxic in some situations, in friendships, relationships, in whatever it may be. And we have evolved, grown, learned life lessons along life's journey since then. But yet there may be still some people who think that we still the old us, but we got to let them know you don't know me anymore, period. And so I have a special guest tonight who's coming on to join me in this conversation. She is no stranger to the Lifeboat Live. She has been on here many times with her wisdom and her great input to share her life's journeys and her life lessons and pour out of her cup. And so I would love for you to introduce to you to some of you, none other than Ashley Nicole Cook. Receive her. I don't know what's going on tonight. Hi, Ashley.
Hi, Arian. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you in the great state of Texas? Huh? How are you doing over there? How's the weather?
It's a little cool. It's a little windy, but it's good. I'm doing good. I'm loving Dallas. I've been here about 6 weeks now, and
Uh-huh.
I'm loving it. Is it six? Yeah, about 6 weeks, and I'm loving it.
Good, good, good. And settling in well as well.
I am.
Wonderful. Okay, so for some of the viewers who may not know, actually, before we get into that, I'm going to ask you guys to share. Hit share. Make sure you tag some of your friends in the comments. Send up those hearts, those likes, and I would love to know also where you are watching from. Me and Ashley would love to greet you and just kind of engage with you as we are talking about this, because this is a conversation, y'all. So come on in, gather yourselves, as Pastor Hannah would say, and join the conversation. But yes, Ashley, tell those who may not know a little bit about you, about yourself and what you do, who you are, if you don't mind.
I don't mind at all. I'm still discovering the fullness of who I am.
The fullness thereof, huh?
Yes, still in this self discovery here. But what I do is I'm currently working at a nonprofit here in Dallas, which is what relocated me here. And we work with families who have children with special needs. And for the past 7 years or so, I've been working in the advocacy space for child protection. I'm a preacher's kid or a pastor's kid, because there is a difference between a preacher's kid and a pastor's kid. I'm a pastor's kid. We had it harder. But I'm a mom. I'm an author. I do a lot of public speaking as well. I'm just, I'm Ashley. I'm grateful to be here. I'm excited.
And I'm excited to have you here. And today is your birthday. So please, guys, send up some hearts and wish Ashley a happy birthday right now in those comments. And for her birthday, she actually has re-released a book. Tell us a little bit about the book that you released and how they can go ahead and cop it. Yes. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday.
Yes, so super excited. It's been a wonderful day, very emotional day. I've received so much love today, and it's been overwhelming. So about this book, I did a book called Audacious, and it is a book that talks about a little bit about my journey through overcoming child sexual abuse, but it's also a resource and a tool for faith leaders to know what to do to protect children from sexual abuse. How they also learn how to promote healing for survivors as well within their congregation and their community. So it's just I felt the desire and need to empower our faith leaders to protect their sheep, the sheep that are sometimes the most vulnerable, the ones that just kind of seem to go from place to place to place because they don't get the things that they need. They don't get the healing that they need from their leadership. And a lot of the times it's not because the leader doesn't care. It's
Yeah.
just they don't have the tools and the resources to be able to help them. So wrote the book Audacious to kind of help facilitate that conversation to make it easier for faith leaders to begin engaging in that way.
And that is wonderful and so needed because, as you know, on the lifeboat, my or the mission anyhow, one of the missions is to bridge uh, mental health with the church and
Yeah,
with faith, and with faith, and one of the missions is that that we make it synonymous, make them the two synonymous, and not like there have to be strangers to
yeah,
to taking care of your mental health. You can pray and still go to therapy, and
absolutely.
yes, and so I think it's an amazing initiative to, to equip faith leaders with the right tools to deal with people who are going through these kind of struggles, or people who have gone through these struggles, and how to better shepherd them.
Yeah.
So thank you, kudos to you on
Thanks.
that, and you can go ahead and grab that book at
HelloAshleyCook.com. Everything is Hello Ashley Cook. So follow me on Instagram, follow me on Facebook, follow me on Twitter. Hello Ashley Cook.
Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, so let's get into this material tonight because this kind of topic kind of was inspired by a conversation that you and I were actually having, just about like some of the growth that we've seen in one another,
Mm-hmm.
and that we've been able to kind of witness like our transformations, like kind of we had a front row to watch ourselves transform. Like I saw you grow in so many different ways, from making decisions, how you make your decisions, how you allow yourself to be portrayed, and I feel like I have also you know been through some really tough times and was able to just kind of combat that with therapy, with prayer, with just gleaning and gleaning from the word of God,
Yeah.
and also just like the fellowship of having someone to keep me accountable, like yourself, because iron sharpeneth iron, and we have been able to be that to one another in this last year or so,
Yeah.
especially. I think we originally met back in 2017 at YLC, but
Mm-hmm.
we kind of were acquaintances, but the relationship kind of evolved over the years. And I'm so glad to call you friend. And just to see like where you have come, where you were and where you kind of are now, which is really just incredible. So, with that said, um, I don't know if can you hear me, by the way? Can you hear me? Hello?
Uh-oh. I don't know what happened.
Hold on.
Um,
Let me check this connection. Oh, looks like we might have lost Ashley. Okay, so just give me a second. We're going to get back to the live. I don't know where Ashley went. Let me just check my phone with her. See if she is. Oh, she's right here. Oh, surprise! I'm also in Dallas too, and I'm here with Ashley. She's just up in the other room, but we just doing this from two different rooms. So yeah, that's a surprise. Sorry, we're corny, but take it or leave it. Hurry up, Ashley. So yes, we are talking about the evolution process, and growing. So, one of the questions that you and I asked each other, Ashley, recently was, is it fair to hold somebody to the experience we had with them, the last experience we had with them, once time has passed, right? Is it fair to say that, their character is trash? You know what I mean? Uh, 3, 4, 5, maybe even 10 years later after your interaction with them, would it be fair to continually give that person a negative character report, or recommendation based off of an experience that we've had, especially if we haven't had new experiences with them?
Right.
What do you think?
So I think that that's a tough one.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think that we oftentimes see people in the same way that we left them.
Yeah.
However, we disconnected from them, that's the way that we'll kind of always see them. And
Yeah.
sometimes that is not true at a past a certain point.
Right.
Just how we evolve, just as we grow, as we heal, as we continue to discover who we are, and the truth about who we are. Um, Other people have that same opportunity, and believe it or not, other people do grow up, other people do mature. And so I do think that to some degree it is unfair for us to continue to view people based off of a one time experience or our experience with them way back when.
Right.
Now, they could, our experience with them, was trash.
Mm-hmm.
They could still be trash.
Right. Right.
Like they could still be the same. And you can kind of tell by the fruit, you
Right.
know, that
Right.
they bear. But I've gotten to the point in my life where I try not to, I haven't perfected this, but I try not to offer my opinion on anybody's lifestyle or anybody's about who I think that they are based off of my experience with them. I don't volunteer
Mm-hmm.
information. And if someone were to come and ask me for that character reference, because oftentimes we do, and I do the same thing. If before I engage with a new person in my life, whether that is romantically or platonically, even professionally, I
Mm-hmm.
will ask like, hey, I met so and such, such and such. Can you tell me about them? What's your experience with them? And if I kind of get negative feedback on that person, I'll listen, I'll pay attention, but I'll also realize, what? They had a bad experience with
Yeah.
that person, but I'm willing to bet maybe somebody had a good experience with them and will give me a different, review or overview of who they are. So I'm kind of careful about the information that I volunteer. If I love you and I care about you and I'm looking out for you and I don't want you to be harmed
Yeah.
in the way that I was, I will try my best to give you a general overview of my experience without divulging the details of
Yeah.
it, because at the end of the day, that's still my brother or my sister in Christ. And
Mm-hmm.
a part of me has to continue to cover them
Yeah.
to, to some degree, or, try and be respectful and honor them as best as I can, even if they did something dishonorable, to me in a
Right.
season.
Right. 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 And I can even just speak from my own testimony, because I've had experiences, of course, with people, we all have, that were complete trash. And you thought to yourself, if I never engage with that person ever again, it won't be,
Soon enough.
right. It won't be soon enough. Right. Um, and then those people, years later move on to do great things, better things. And you're just like, oh, and sometimes in the back of your head, you're like, and they probably still trash. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That is so unfair,
Yeah.
though, to say, because I know for myself, for example, that there have been seasons in my life where I was not the healthiest, mentally, emotionally. You
Yeah.
know, there were seasons in my life where, you know, I didn't make the greatest decisions because I was stuck in a place of high anxiety and like high stress. Um, and you know, anybody that knows anything about anxiety, you cannot think clearly when you're in a state of anxiety, when you're in a state of fight, flight, or freeze mode. You are in a traumatic, high adrenaline state where you can often make decisions from a place of panic,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so I know that I have been guilty of being in that place where my anxiety was not under control, um, and I also hadn't even become conscious of the fact yet. I was unconsciously incompetent uh,
Yeah.
on how to deal with um, my anxiety, or not even realizing that I was in that state, and also not realizing that there were certain traumas that I had experienced that I hadn't even begun to not even deal with, but not even acknowledged yet in my
Yes.
life. You know what I mean? And so when put into certain situations that were kind of triggering to those wounds, those unhealed wounds, I would make very poor decisions. You know what I mean? Which would be, you know, harmful to like not even just and I'm talking about relationships in general, whether it be
Yeah.
a family, whether it be platonic, romantic, you know. um and I remember there was a season in my life where my mental health started to decline in terms of just depression and anxiety.
Hmm.
And some of the closest people in my life, one of them being, you know, my pastor, actually. I remember him sitting down with me one time and saying, like, Arian, what is going on with you? You know, I just feel like for the last couple of years, there's been a shift in you. And, and, um, and I don't know what it is, but I don't see that like joy in you anymore. I don't see that excitement in you anymore, that passion. Like, what happened to you? I need you to get that Arian back. And I
Yeah.
remember just sitting there and thinking, like, it's true. I haven't been happy. I haven't been in a good place for these last few years, and I couldn't quite put my finger on why.
Mhm.
And one of my closest friends even said to me, she's like, Arian, like, she, you know, the people around me noticed that I had been different, and I
Yeah.
knew I was different, but I couldn't quite, you know, pinpoint for what reason, until I had to sit down and just be mindful and really think on those things. And I realized that, woo, like it came in like almost like a flood, that there was some stuff that I
Yeah.
was holding on to that I was in denial about. You know what I mean? And I had to
Yeah.
deal with those things head on. And I think right that second when I realized you know, I went back to my pastor and told him, this is what I'm going through. This is what I experienced. And I realized that because I never dealt with it, because I ignored it, I ended up decline, like I just started to decline in my
Yeah.
mental health without even realizing that I was declining. Um,
Ooh.
Right. Um, and so that was an amazing moment and a light bulb moment for me in my life, because that's what triggered me and catapulted me right into therapy, right into taking care of my mental health, taking care of myself, being more mindful, being more conscious. Because
Yeah.
now that I was awakened, I was now consciously, where I was unconsciously incompetent, I was
Hmm.
now consciously incompetent, meaning that I now was awakened to the fact that there was a problem. I was incompetent in the sense that I didn't have the tools yet now on how to actually um, figure out how to resolve those problems.
Yeah.
Right. But that's why prayer is so important. That's why having community around you, people who can hold you accountable, you know,
Yeah.
in your life, to be like, hey, this, you know, you're not being yourself right now, and who want to pray with you through it. And then also, I went, like I said, I got into therapy, and I started to work through these issues. And it wasn't an overnight work. It wasn't a quick work. You know what I mean? It took some
Lord.
real crying. It took some real,
Yeah.
you know, honesty. It took some mistakes. It took some taking 10 steps forward and then 5 back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was a journey in order to become healthy mentally, and emotionally. Um, and it also meant that I needed to get rid and rid myself of the things that were unhealthy, the bonds that I made in that season, the bonds I made, the relationships I formed. A lot of them were feeding that unhealthy
Yeah.
state,
Yeah.
right? Because when you're in an unhealthy state, you are going to uh, cling to things that are not healthy because you
Yeah.
can't make good, wise decisions, right? So that meant cutting off certain relationships. It meant cutting off certain people who were only egging on that state, and just making healthier decisions. And so that process really um, was so necessary. I'm glad I went through it because I can stand here today and say that I'm in a I am light years away from where I was,
Yeah.
right?
Me too.
Um, I have dealt with it, and I still continually in therapy, discovering new things about myself, new tools, and working on constantly working on myself because that's something that I am passionate about. Just always finding new ways to be a better me.
Yeah.
Um, and so yeah, it was just an important journey, and I think we all need to go through there because those people who may have interacted with me in that season of my life can most likely say, Arian, trash, right?
Yeah.
Was like, she's whack.
Listen,
I'm sure there are some people who might feel that way. You know
we've
what I
been the
mean?
trash in somebody else's life.
I've been
We've
trash
been
in
the
my
toxic one.
life.
We've been
Of
the
course,
toxic
I've been
one.
the toxic one. I have
Yeah.
been. And so but what I'm here to say today is you don't know me anymore, because you may have known me in a season where I was wounded.
Yeah.
You have known me in a season where I was the prodigal son.
Yeah.
You may
Yeah.
have known me in a season where I was hanging around with pigs, huh? But there was a moment where I became conscious to who and where I was, and realized that that was not my identity, and that was not who I was, and that was not where I was meant to be. And I
Yeah.
and I started my homecoming journey, and I came back home to who I was, to the root of who I am, to and started to unfold and to clean my dirty laundry.
Yeah.
Uh, and thank God for that, because I can honestly say that that who I was then is not who I am now, and I'm grateful for that.
Yeah.
And so I think being able to recognize that journey within myself allows me then to have maybe some skepticism with people who I've had bad experiences with, but a measure of skepticism, but also a greater measure of hopefulness that they also
Yeah.
um, can go through a transformation and a development in their character.
Yeah. But you know what's so interesting about that is a lot of the times we like for people to suffer
Yeah,
um because of what they've done to us. And sometimes we feel like the best punishment for them is for them to remain the same. They
yeah,
don't deserve to grow. They don't deserve to evolve. They don't deserve to heal. And we kind of punish them,
yeah,
that way. But one of the things that you said before when you were talking about discovery,
mhm,
and continuing to discover who you are. In on the first page of my book, I talk about how as long as we're on this earth, we should constantly be becoming
yeah.
to the day that we die, to the day that God calls us home or wherever your destination is. Um, we should, we hope we all go into the same place. Um, but we should always be evolving and getting better and growing and improving.
Yeah.
I believe that that is the way that we're supposed to live our lives. We never stop growing.
Yeah.
All the way through old age, we never stop growing. So we're always becoming. We're always discovering new things. And so I think it is good that, we do go to therapy. We do continue to unpack past trauma, unpack things that we have done, poor decisions that we've made, maybe because of trauma, or maybe just because we didn't really know who we were. We didn't
Yeah.
have a great holding on to, or we couldn't really tether to the belief of who God says we
Right.
are, because who He says we are, we don't feel like we
Right.
deserve to be identified as such, because we have made poor decisions, or because we have done such things, or bad things. We allow shame and guilt to keep us separated from the grace and
Right.
mercy and forgiveness and compassion and love that God wants to give us freely.
So
Um,
good. Yeah.
and so, with that discovery, yes, it's good that we are discovering the things that need to change, but then there also needs to be discipline that
Yeah.
goes with it, because we can sit in therapy all day. We can sit in worship all day. We can consecrate ourselves. We can be in devotion every single morning, and we hear from the Lord. And He gives us the answers. Our
Yeah.
therapist gives us the tools and the resources to be able to make certain changes in our lives. But if we don't do the work, then we're wasting our time going to therapy,
Correct.
um, going to God and saying, Lord, help me. What am I supposed to do? So
Yeah.
there is that discovery piece, but then there's also that discipline piece. And sometimes we don't realize, we think that healing is this supernatural experience. And sometimes it is a supernatural experience. I have seen people get out of wheelchairs that
Yeah.
haven't walked in years. I've seen those miracle signs and wonders in a very tangible way.
Mhm.
But then also healing happens when you make the decision. One of the greatest lessons that I've learned about deliverance is that even that is not always a supernatural experience. Sometimes it's a decision.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's you changing your mind and doing something different than you did before. And we think that, okay, God, I need you to heal me from this. I need you to help me be better. And God is like, okay, cool. Here's what I need you to do. And
Right.
you have to do the work to become different. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was gonna say, like, sometimes we think that when we ask God for certain things, like, Lord, help me with patience, Lord, help me with that we're gonna receive it through osmosis. Right?
Right.
It's just gonna be like, all right, here you are, and then I'm
Yeah.
patient. You know what I mean? But sometimes you got to be careful even what you ask God for, because are you ready to go through that? Are you ready to sojourn through patience?
Yeah.
Get that patience, because what you think it's going to look like is all of a sudden I'm just feeling so much more patient.
Yeah.
No, what that actually is going to look like, you're going to be put in all kinds of situations that people are going to work your nerves, or
Yes.
you're going to put in the most obscene situations where you're gonna want to pop off and go off.
Mhm.
And God is saying, you wanted to learn patience? Well, here is an opportunity. Here is your
Yep.
trial. Here's
Opportunity
your
to
30-day
practice.
trial.
He
Right.
gives us opportunities to practice the thing that we're asking for. God, increase my faith. Okay.
Yeah.
Let me put you in a situation where you have no choice but to depend on me
Right.
fully. But like, no, 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 Lord.
Hopeless place.
I didn't mean it like that, Lord. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't mean it like that. I just needed like a little more measure of,
Right.
faith.
Right. Right.
I didn't want it your way. And
Right.
oftentimes the things we ask for, it's not, when God answers us or gives it to us, it's not going to look how we think it's
Correct.
going to look.
Correct. Correct. And I think that's just one of those things where we have to um, be ready, right? When we pray for increase in certain areas, especially in areas
Mhm.
of character, in areas of, I think those are the times where you have to fortify your mind. When you want increase, you need to get into the Word of God, because
Yeah.
you're about to be um, you're about to be put between a rock and a hard place, right? But the rock that we stand on,
Oh my gosh,
yeah,
stop. Christ is the solid rock.
well,
Which
Christ
I
is the
stand.
solid rock.
Huh? All other ground.
Though we walk through the valley of the shadow of death,
Oh my God.
I will fear no evil. Why? Because thou art
So
with me.
churchy.
Yeah, well,
I love it.
So, but although I say this lightheartedly, this is the truth. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Though when you ask for those things, you about to walk through that valley,
Yeah.
but you don't live there. You got to
You don't
move
live
on
there.
from there. You don't live there. You just
Yeah.
passing through.
Yeah.
You're
But you
just
know what?
walking through.
And even in that, one of the things that you said earlier about when we do discover certain things about ourselves and we do grow,
Yeah,
there comes a period where we may have to disconnect from certain people. We like to say cut them off, and I've tried to change my language around that because cutting them off just for me it sounds like I'm throwing you away.
right,
And we are quick to discard people. And everything that we do should actually be rooted in love. So I like to say sometimes we have to disconnect from people. But even when we do that, it has to be in an honorable way or in a way that pleases God. Because what will happen is we'll discover, oh, I shouldn't be acting like this, or I shouldn't be doing this. I'm better than this. I am such and such. And then we begin to recite who God says that we are. And we begin to look down at the person that we engaged with. Like I've said this before when it comes to premarital sex. That
hmm
seems to be the hot topic for, church period. So when it comes to that, if you've engaged in it before, I have a 17-year-old, so obviously I'm not married. So obviously I'm speaking from experience here. But if you've engaged in premarital sex and there comes a point in your life where you're like, you know what? I really just want to honor God with everything, including my body, with the way that I speak to people, the way that I talk to, or the way that I engage with people, the way that I treat them. Everything that I do, I want to honor God, including my body. So
right,
you have this awareness now, and or this discovery, and then now you're going forward in a different direction. Like, you know what, homie? Like, don't get me wrong, it was good, but
right,
I'm gonna have to make a better decision for myself. But what we like to do instead of having that conversation with them in a very respectful way, it's like a quick cutoff. Like, no,
yeah,
you gotta go because you're temptation or you're this, you're that. Like we look down on them when we was just in the same bed with them
right,
last week. Okay, so we have to learn how to grow with grace, and we have
right,
to learn how to engage with people. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with having that conversation with the individual to let them know where you are. And what
right,
I've discovered is that that also helps with them looking at you like as if you don't deserve to be on the lifeboat talking about X, Y, and Z, or you
right,
don't deserve to be talking about, how you're committed to God because we was just, you know,
right.
you know what I'm saying.
Knock,
So
knocking.
how we handle that actually matters. And I had a gentleman have a conversation with me after we had to have that cutoff conversation. And he was like, you know what? I have so much respect for you, not just because you did something for yourself, but also because you didn't just like treat me like I was trash
Yeah,
because you have a certain conviction that I may not have.
right,
So those conversations matter. And then if somebody wants to come to them and be like, oh, what's your opinion on Ashley? You know what, man? Ashley's cool.
yeah,
Ashley is, mature enough to have tough conversations. The way that they perceive you can be different as well.
right.
I've lived that experience. Now, some people
Yeah,
are going to talk about you regardless.
of course. You can do things as nicely as possible, and people will still tell you that you're the worst person in the world.
Oh my God.
Tell me how I know. Ask me how I know.
That sounds so personal.
So, a little inside joke. But you know what I mean? You try to handle people a certain way, but after a while, I think, I think you have to know. I think sometimes that when you put up boundaries, right? When people are used to a version of you that was lax in certain
Yeah.
boundaries,
Free access.
yes, when they've had free access, and you now have realized how unhealthy that was or is, um,
Hmm.
and decide to put those boundaries in place. I think it can be shocking, it can be jarring because you are switching up something that they have grown accustomed to.
Yeah.
Right? If somebody's grown accustomed to being able to take advantage of you, and abuse your time, abuse, whatever, then yeah, they're going to be shook at the fact that all of a sudden they're swiping their card and it's access denied.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so and so then they want to be, giving you the negative review. However, it's like, ma'am, sir, uh I had to relocate.
Yeah. I had to change access to me.
I had to, yeah, I had to recode the passwords
Yeah.
because the truth of the matter is that there is precious cargo valuables in here, and
Yeah.
not everybody can be up in the safe.
Yeah. And at the same time, I also own my stuff. You right. Like, bro, you right. I did that. Or sis, you right. I did say that. I did do that. I own my stuff. I'm
Yeah,
not going to, just because I have conviction about the way that I used to live or the way that I'm currently living and I want to change and I want to do something different, does not mean that I don't, number one, have to deal with the consequences of the actions or behaviors that I participated in.
yeah.
But it also means that, hold on one second.
Well, you coming back through?
No, no, I'm not. I had to mute. Okay. Sorry, had some coming to clean the building.
Yeah,
So yes, you have to deal with the consequences of what you have decided to participate in. But you own your stuff.
yeah.
I did that. But you know what? I also don't have to subscribe. Listen, I also don't have to subscribe to the idea that I got to stay this way,
Right.
that I have to continue to live my life this way. I can change at any point. I can make the decision that I want to be better, and I have that right to be better,
I
and
have
I
the
am
right to.
empowered to do that.
And that's not me acting brand new. That's not me acting like I'm bad. I think I'm bougie. She thinks she's
Right.
cute. You know what I mean? That's not me trying to, stunt on nobody. That's just me doing maintenance.
Yes. And me realizing I'm tired of this cycle. I'm tired of damaging and hurting myself because
Correct.
I know how this is going to play out. I know that if I do X, Y, and Z, it's going to end like this because I've done it so many times that I know how it works.
I
So
know
now
how
I
this
got to
plan.
retrain myself to not only behave a certain way, but to also believe a different truth
Yes,
about
yes.
myself.
And listen, that period can be so challenging because you are going uphill. You are fighting against something that, or patterns, habits, behaviors that you
Yeah.
have grown accustomed to, that you have marinated in for so long that it has become ingrained in the
Yeah.
fabric of who you are, right, and how you operate. And
Yeah.
so changed behavior is very, very difficult. It doesn't happen overnight. Rome was not built in a day. You know what I mean? And so when you are working on a changed behavior, you are, like I said earlier, you are going to take sometimes 10 steps forward, and then sometimes it feels like 9 back,
Yeah.
right? But the thing is that you got to keep going, you got to keep trekking, and knowing that, like I said, Rome wasn't built in a day, and that every step you take to bettering yourself, even if it's tiny steps,
Yeah.
it is you're actually moving and propelling in the right direction.
Yeah.
And, and that is what matters the most.
Yeah. When you say that, the vision that, or the visual that comes to mind is when a car is stuck in snow.
Hmm.
Sometimes in order to get out or to get unstuck, you got to go back. You got to put that thing in reverse
Yeah.
a little bit, go backwards in order to get out of that
And to
space.
create that momentum.
So even if you take 10 steps forward and 11 or 12, 13, 14 steps back, you've realized that, you know what, I can actually take steps forward. And sometimes that's all you need to get
Right.
that going, discovering, like, you know what, I have progressed up
Yes.
to a certain point that I never thought that I could get to. And even if I messed up and I made a poor decision and I kind of like backtrack or went back to what I was doing before, I realized I have the power, I have the discipline, I have the mindset, and I have the freedom and the grace to be able to try it again.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
that's
That's so good.
we have we have unlimited grace, we have unlimited mercy, um and I believe that sometimes we feel like i can't I can't start over again because God is just, he's so disappointed in
Yeah.
me. And
Yeah.
even those disappointments, like, God wants to talk to you about those things. Like, when I was talking to you the other night, I was kind of talking through some of the things that I'm learning in my discipleship class at my church. And one of the things that was pointed out was, even those things that we do that we're ashamed of, God
Yeah.
wants to have a conversation with us about those things. Like, I'll come to you sometimes when I'm feeling a certain way, and I'm like, you know what, let me filter this through you before I go and talk to this person, because maybe what I'm feeling is not the truth about what's actually happening. Maybe
Yeah.
what I'm feeling is
Being
it
filtered through emotion.
yes, or filtered through an old experience, because it
Yeah.
looks the same, it sounds the same, but it may not actually be the same. And
Yeah.
our feelings have a way of lying to us and deceiving us sometimes about the truth of our situation.
Right.
So, being able to filter things through you, being able to, and just as I would filter them through you, we have access to filter certain things through God, and or
Right.
filter anything through God. We can literally talk to him about anything. We can even talk to him about the person we just slept with,
Yeah.
since that's what we're talking about. We can talk to him about the feelings and the emotions that come because we're now attached to that person in a certain way. We can talk to him about how it made us feel, like the act. Like, we can talk to him about everything. He
Yeah.
wants us to communicate with him about what we're going through. But
Right.
even when we begin to talk and as we share, God also wants to talk back to us, and he
Yeah.
wants to communicate with us. And my one of my leaders was put it this way, that oftentimes we come before God and we just pour, we just talk, we just talk. But the majority of our prayer time should actually be us hearing from
Yeah.
God. It's a
Yeah.
conversation.
Hmm.
And we come, we cry and we lament and we, oh God, I'm so sorry. And we do all of this stuff that is necessary sometimes. But then we're like, okay, God, show me a sign, or, speak to me through nature, speak to me through, have a random person come and talk to me. And God is just like, just shut up and listen.
Right.
I got something to say to you right now.
Right.
But you want to go to sleep, or you want to go and watch Netflix, but I want you to be still, and I want to have a conversation with you. I don't want this to just always be a venting session.
Right. 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 That's so good. That is very, very good. And if you haven't shared this yet, this is a good time to hit share. It's a good time to hit like and to tag some of your friends in the comments,
Yeah.
because we are all a work in progress. We are all, under construction. And if you aren't, well, maybe there's some self-reflecting to do there, because we all can be a little better and a little bit more,
Yeah.
tighten up in some areas in our lives. And I think that, we need to not only um, give grace to those who may have disappointed us in the past on their behaviors because of what, the consequences of their behaviors ended up harming us in some way. But also we have to sometimes give grace to ourselves, you know what I mean, and allow our and realize that sometimes we have made mistakes, and stop beating ourselves over the head about the mistakes that we've made, and feeling that we can no longer have access to certain people, to certain areas, to certain jobs, to certain platforms, to certain
favor. Yeah.
And even to relationship with God because of our past mistakes, especially when you have actively, consciously made the decision to become better, and you have become better, and you are doing better. You do not allow yourself to be held to the old you, or to the person that people are still holding you to.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, because especially when we can get into certain atmosphere, there are times that we're going to be in certain environments with people who we haven't seen in years.
Yeah.
Right? But we're acquainted with the old us. And then when we get into those kind of atmospheres, we somehow shrivel up, shrink, and we almost feel ashamed to be back in those situations, or in those environments, because we are feeling like, oh my gosh, they're all looking at me because they know what I did 10 years ago, what I did 15 years ago, what I did 3 years ago. But the truth is that you know the work that you have done, you know where you are at today, and you should hold your head up high. And whoever wants to hold you to who you used to be, that is their problem now and not yours. You continue to allow your light to shine, and let your fruits be seen. Let your fruit, and you don't have to do nothing to be seen. Your fruits will. You don't have to be approved. You don't need it. It will show for itself in your actions, in your behavior, in your way of thinking, in the way you speak, and just even in your aura.
Yeah.
Your aura will give off that something is different about you. And those who are discerning, those who are tapped in, those who are not determined to hold you to an old landmark, will allow you to flourish and to grow, and to be able to reconnect in some measure, with a certain measure of reconnection, if that is even something that is on the table at that time, because you know what, sometimes that could be more a blessing, and actually a journey of healing, when you can reconnect with someone who did you dirty years ago, and see that there's been growth, and see that they can now apologize, and do it in a sincere and a knowledgeable way.
Yeah.
Something very transformative about that kind of experience, when you can see someone who was trash 10 years ago, and have a conversation with them in the present time, and realize, like, oh my goodness, you have, and there's a moment of a full circle moment, a moment of healing in that moment, where they don't even need to apologize anymore, because you just see the transformation and the changed mind, the shift and paradigm of who they are now today, and just be like, man, I'm so proud of them.
Yeah.
I'm happy for them. And I almost feel like the world is a safer place because they have become a newer, a more healthy version of themselves.
Yeah. And even with, I think about how we refer to people or their actions as trash. And at some point we enjoyed the slop. Like we participated, like we allowed them to treat us certain ways. And at that time they weren't trash to us. They were who they were. And I think that a lot of times when we're frustrated with people, the reality is we're not really pissed off at them, because they always showed us who they were. We're pissed off at ourselves because we stayed there and ate the slop.
Right.
We stayed there longer than we should have. So we're upset at ourselves, but we want to take it out on the other people when they're just being who they always were.
Yeah.
And we accepted less than what we should have. And so we're mad at ourselves. And a lot of those situations. So yeah, you might have been trash, but we enjoyed that slop at
Listen,
some point.
and a lot of times, what they say, you are what you eat. And so if you was feasting at the same table, eating the same stuff, well, guess what? You might have been just as trash, right?
Sick of it. So sick of it.
Listen, I'm just, this has been a very powerful conversation. It's been a very almost revelatory conversation as we were going on along. I feel like there was just things that you said that kind of like was, I had a revelation in and a revelation experience of just things that I was like, oh wow, about moments in my life that I need to maybe stop and think about for myself, and this is why I love these kind of conversations. This is why I love the Lifeboat, because out here, like, we're going to be transparent out in these Lifeboat waters. And we are going to keep it real, because you know what, I am passionate about sharing life lessons. And Lord knows I've been through quite some things, and so I just really pray that this conversation will help somebody, will maybe hopefully catapult somebody onto their new journey, onto their homecoming journey, into realizing that they need to become competent on how to deal with their trauma, not just live in it, not just be conscious of the fact that it's there, and but also to develop this, to want to seek out the help and the tools to have your transformation moment, so that we could all come to a place where we are unconsciously competent. What I mean by that is that you are unconscious, you are so prolific and so well versed in, or should say well practiced in good habits, that it's no longer something you need to be conscious of, because you have done so much work and development that you can now function from an unconscious place, because it's just become a part of your DNA. And so that's what I pray for myself. That's the journey that I'm always going to be on. And to whoever is watching this, I pray that this be your journey as well. And so thank you so much, Ashley. Do you have any closing words, anything that you want to add to this before we go ahead and close up?
Yes, a final thought that I have, and how I, in my prayer times, what I ask God is to help me to treat people better than my experiences with them. Like, help me to treat them better than how they left me. Help me to treat them better than the unfortunate experiences I had with them. Help me to not see them as the experience, but to see them as a person who may have had other experiences that led them to behave the way that they did. So help me to see people as people who are deserving of the same grace, mercy, forgiveness, love, support that I am, and healing that I am, and not see them as the experience.
Agree. That is powerful. That is very powerful. And I that's great. And that's something I need to add to my prayer life too. But thank you so much for just your wisdom and the gems that you dropped tonight on the Lifeboat Live. If you guys, really enjoyed this conversation, make sure that you hit share, and also go follow Ashley and go get her book Audacious. On, where is it, on Amazon? On
HelloAshleyCook.com.
HelloAshleyCook.com. And get your copy today. Today's her birthday too, so make sure you drop some happy birthdays in the comments. And you can drop what's your Cash App?
Hello Ashley Cook.
Oh, there you go. Hello Ashley Cook. If you want to give her a little birthday, if you feel led to bless her on her birthday today. Thank you so much, Ashley. It's always a pleasure. I'm gonna see you in a minute.
30 seconds.
30 seconds. But we'll talk soon. Thank you so much again. Bye-bye. Well, thank you so much for joining me tonight on another Lifeboat Live. It's been swell. I really do pray that this message, penetrates deeper than just, a light listen, but that it really resonates with you, so that you can start your journey of healing, of transformation, and just becoming a better version of who you are, and maybe even migrating into a place where you want to be. So on that note, thank you again. Make sure you hit share, make sure you like, and we will resume back again every Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern time on the Lifeboat Live. Until then,